wind howls over the ice-covered peaks in the spine of the world mountain range. When many of the world's population and creatures alike would consider here an uninhabitable death trap, Olanu and her tribe have made this their home. Said to have been kissed by the tempest at birth, Olanu's white hair and blue eyes have granted her the name of Iceheart. Nestled within the dangerous mountain itself, the Akannathi tribe of Goliaths have thrived. Being raised by her father to follow the path of the totem, she has found it difficult to find the guardian spirits within herself. Although, following deep in her consciousness, the wolf and the bear watch her every move with thoughtful apprehension. Plagued by visions of ominous comings, Olanu Iceheart has made the long journey from the safety of her mountaintop home to the isolated civilizations of 10 towns. Unable to find the source of these terrifying visions, she has made it her mission to confront whatever may be causing them. In the meantime, Olanu, although meeting some resistance at first due to her stature and stories of her kind, has found herself reluctantly running security to those brave enough to journey for trade amongst the lakeside towns.
Hey, Dan here. Look. Alright, we messed up a little bit, but we did good. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright. So leading off with the fact that you are running trade for the people along these routes, let me go ahead and set the mood. A bit of ambiance. There. That should do it. You can see Ian clapping his hands and wiping the snow off on his winter jacket. He claps you across the shoulder. You know, I'm sure I'm glad that we got contracted with you. Especially for this trip. Weather hasn't been too kind of late.
Is it ever kind?
That's true. You know, that would have taken us hours to put all that together. I'm glad you're here, though.
Glad to be of help.
You look over, and you can see Hans and Gretchen, the two halflings that were also contracted to be with you here on this supply run, currently latching the two snow dogs to the reins of the sled. You know these snow dogs as you've made quick friends with them. Being that your connection to animals has always come a little bit easy for you. You know Molly and Sarah, the two husky-like dogs that lead the sled. Sarah is even playfully squirming and making it difficult for Hans to fit the reins properly over her. And at one point even knocking him over into a small snowdrift, causing both dogs to and wag and spin and dance around as if playing a game. You see that Gretchen is kind of laughing or chuckling at the other as he kind of tries to get up out of the snow, and he's just completely covered in white at this point.
She'll walk over and put the harness on the dog, giving it a good scratch.
You get over there, and the second you get over there, Sarah, immediately kind of calms down. Doesn't, obediently calm down, but she's just very happy to see you and immediately, sits in the snow as you approach. And you can easily put the reins on. And you look over, and he's just still wiping off the snow off of him. He's like, I had that.
Sure you did.
And after making your way to 10 towns, you found it best to help out with these supply runs, as it allows you to be away from the troubles that the towns seem to bring. It also helps in gathering what little money you may be using for clothing and weapon repairs and replacements. You see, if there's anything you've learned over the past several months of being here, it's that there is a complete lack of care put into the craftsmanship of your weapons and armor provided by the Black Iron Blades. Unfortunately, the Black Iron Blades are one of the only companies willing to hire a Goliath like yourself without too many questions. You turn, and you can see Ian adjusting the ropes that are used to tie down the top of the sled to make sure that the metal scraps don't go flying out. You picked up these metal scraps just recently from a merchant here in East Haven. Really, it wasn't as much you as Ian. He seems to be the talker of the group. And as Ian is like kind of waist deep in this bag trying to like get hold of the other side of the rope, to tie down this large sack of scrap metal, you see approaching far off in from the snowstorm an outline of a tall figure ominously approaching from about 30 feet behind the sled. The figure looks to be possibly sneaking or something due to their hunched nature and slow approach.
She's gonna put her hand to the hilt of her sword and yell out, "Who goes there?"
Approaching through the snow and the fog, the figure becomes more and more apparent, now showing the outline of what looks to be obviously some sort of elder, taller creature. You look close and you can see the bluish gray furred face through the wrappings that go around him. And as he approaches, he just sticks up one of his hands, says, "No need to worry, no need to worry. I didn't mean to frighten you. I know it's dark. My apologies. I see that you're headed due west. Are you perchance heading out to Brinshander?"
We are.
Oh, good. I see. I have a pupil of mine that will be in need of some passage to Brinshander. I was wondering if I could have her possibly come alongside you and travel with you back, on your way back to the town.
It's no skin off my back, just as long as you pay them.
As you say that, you hear clink, 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 as, you see Ian just digging through the metal still. And from his position, he yells out, "Look, old man, we aren't a taxiing business. We're merchant tradesmen." "Oh, well, if it's coin you seek, I have some." And you see him pull out a small coin purse from his side. And Ian immediately, like, listening, saying he's got coin, he picks his head up from the thing and starts making his way towards the figure. And suddenly he's like, "Wait, Tomlin, is that you? Oh, hey, sorry, I couldn't tell in the dark and the snowfall and such. So, who's the woman?" "Oh, it's, just a friendly acquaintance. She needs your guidance, as she's new to 10 Towns." Acquaintance. New to 10 Towns, you say? I haven't seen a new face in 10 Towns and God, I can't even remember. Olanu, you can see now that the old man is kind of shifting in place and his eyes kind of like dart from you to the halflings back to Ian. And Ian speaks up. He says, but yeah. No, we got you, Tom. I mean, do we need to go get her or what? No need. She will be on her way quite soon. I'll send her here to meet you. Here, take this though. And he has the small purse of coins, and he just places it in Tomlin's hands. And you can see Tomlin is kind of like skittish about taking it. He doesn't really feel good about it. He even kind of like motions back towards Tomlin, and Tomlin, or the the gray-faced man, places his hand up in denial. And he's like, no, please, just, it's fine, no worries. Very generous of you, Tom. Thanks. I wasn't expecting it, but I appreciate it. Yeah, just send her on her way then. Oh, yeah, of course. And he turns in the snow, and he starts to back away towards East Haven. And as he's backing away, just as he's like about to enter the fog and snow barrier that is past your sight line, he kind of turns back and he goes, oh, and one more thing. And Tom kind of is like, yeah? Through the snow. She's a little different. But I give you my word, she can be trusted. And he turns and exits into the snow, the wall of fog. Ian kind of turns back to you and he's like, okay.
What does he mean by different?
I don't know. I mean, I trust that he says it's okay, and it'll be okay. I mean, we'll see once she gets here, right?
Fair enough. Well, you'll see. I've got to go hunting.
Be on your guard is all I know. Hey, Olanu, while we wait, why don't you go check on our rations real quick? I know we were running low last I checked.
Okay. And she'll walk off to go check what they have.
Okay. You kind of head back towards the sled, and as you're heading back towards the sled, you can see that both Hans and Gretchen are already made their way back to the front of the sled. And as you're looking and pulling aside the furs and everything like that line the top of the sled, you note the bag that was carrying the entirety of your rations, and you look over, and it's completely empty. Aside from some crumbs, and you look up and you can see Gretchen has pulled down her face mask, and she is just finishing the last bit of knucklehead jerky.
I'm gonna eat on the road now.
She just kind of laughs it off, knowing that she may have been in the wrong.
She'll go walking back towards him and tell him, Gretchen ate the last of the rations.
Well, shit. The market's closed, and the wet trout's prices are fucking highway robbery. Are you, And he kind of looks up at you, and he, like, you know, he does the whole, like, starts at your feet and kind of looks all the way up to your face and says...
Just kind of crosses her arms.
Are the rumors true?
About?
You know, what they say about Goliaths treating this weather like their own backyard.
I mean, yes. We've lived here for way longer than any of you.
I don't doubt it. I mean, I've seen what you can do. Could you hunt?
I was already planning on it. I just didn't think it was going to be absolutely necessary.
Well, I'd say thanks to Hans and Gretchen over there that we don't really have a fucking choice now, do we?
Yep, let's hope I actually catch something.
He kind of like scratches the back of his head. He sighs one more time. He's like, well, why don't we do this? Do you remember that large tree that crosses over the road about a third of the way from Brinshander to here?
Yes.
It took us quite some time to actually get around it. Why don't we meet up there? I'll procure the woman and get us going, and I'm sure by the time we reach that point that maybe you get lucky.
Hopefully.
Well, if you don't see me and I don't see you, at least wait till nightfall before making your way back to Brinshander. And if all goes to plan, we'll just all meet up there.
Okay.
All right.
Don't worry. We'll see each other.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm gonna go get a drink, and I'll probably head back here in just a second. But you're free to go whenever you feel fit.
Safe journey.
He kind of looks at you and gives you another pat on the shoulder. You note that his pats are, are unforgiving. He is quite sincere in his congratulations, or he's always been like a happier kind of fellow. And he just gives you a nice warm pat on the shoulder before he kind of just heads back over towards Hans and Gretchen, and you can see him giving Hans and Gretchen a nice little talking to.
She'll pick up her gear and start heading off down the trail.
Yep. You go over to the carriage, or you go over to the sled, and you pick up your gear, and your gear, of course, consisting of a few survival items, and your trusty sword, which you had just recently got from the Black Iron Blades company, and their workmanship has been quite shitty as of late. So you pick up your rusty, dinged up sword, but truthfully, it's all you can afford at this point. And what do you do? Do you head out into the drift?
Yeah. So she's gonna grab her stuff off the cart, start getting it in place, and then give one last look over her shoulder, and then just head off down the trail, trying to be as quiet as she can, but then veering off kind of to hunt.
Okay. Yeah, as you head out, you can see Ian kind of stops for a moment from yelling at the two halflings, and he kind of looks up to you, and he just puts his arm up in the air, and kind of in his way of showing he is just waving goodbye. He goes back to yelling at the halflings before you make your way into the unknown.
She actually remembers suddenly that she left a very important somebody on the cart, and she's gonna whistle loudly.
You see Olanu stop dead center tracks, even puts her hands up like this, kind of whoa, kind of like that, and she looks back, lets out a large, a sharp whistle,
and then hold my arm up.
And you hold your arm up. As you hold your arm up, the tarp from on top of the sled begins to kind of bump up and move and shift, and you see kind of just standing right between the two halflings that are currently being yelled at, poking its head out from underneath the tarp. You see what looks like the face or head of an eagle, as a sharp beak kind of comes out with a nice curve to the end, pops out, and you hear and suddenly, woof, as it lifts off, it pushes the rest of the tarp away from where it was located, and even pushes a bit of snow in the faces of everybody that were standing around. They kind of have to like hold their faces as a small griffin exits from the cart and makes her way over to Olanu and lands on Olanu's arm. As it kind of like grips onto Olanu's arm, it shifts its way closer to her and kind of nuzzles its nose against its feathers in an act of cleaning.
She's gonna kind of ruffle its feathers on his head. Good Percy. Good little griffin.
It stands like on all four across your arm and settles in.
Mm-hmm. And we'll go off.
And you make your way off into the tundra.
Kind of push it so that he goes back behind my head.
You have a cool little setup in your armor that, much like a baby Bjorn has the baby kind of like sticking out from your chest, you have it on your back to where he kind of knows exactly where to like shift and move its wings and move down in to where its head is essentially opposite yours, facing backwards as you move forward along.
So something that I want to kind of keep an eye out as we go is going to be a good location to actually set up the hunting trap that I have.
All right. So, after about an hour or so of walking through the snow, you note that, unlike many of the people here in 10 Towns, you are not nearly as affected by this cold weather as the smaller folk are. As you make your way through, your skin just kind of radiates a natural warmth, allowing you to move through the snow just as easily as ever before. But you still find it harrowing to push through a lot of this harsh winter wind and everything, making it so that it's still a little bit difficult. Even though the cold may not bother you, the actual weather effects still kind of get to you from time to time, having you stop and catch your breath and such things like that. So after about an hour of traveling through the snow westward towards Bryn Shander, just a little bit north of the road, you know that you don't want to travel too far off from the roadside. That way you can find your way back eventually. Just to the north of where you are, you begin to locate a possible area of maybe like where like a game trail may or may not be. I need you to roll me a survival check, please.
Okay. No.
Perfect. I like it already. That's a good face.
It's an 8.
Excellent. All right. So as you are going through, you unfortunately don't see any game trails, but you set up or find an area that you believe could possibly be of good use or that could lead to a possible entrapment, and you're able to, of course, set up or do whatever you need.
She'll just kind of, not really seeing much, she'll just kind of try and put the trap down, set it, and obscure it as much as she can, and then find an area where she can kind of observe it without being seen.
Yeah. This is like an old trap. The metal itself for the trap is it kind of squeaks as you open it, almost as if like ice rubbing against ice, as it clacks together, it clacks open, allowing you to set the trap in its location.
She'll kind of mumble under her breath, why is everything so busted?
The second you see that, you see like a pin kind of like fly out of the metal, and you're just like, you're ready for the trap to just go off at any second, and it just doesn't.
Okay.
And oh, good.
Yeah, so she'll just try and find a spot, kind of obscured, and keep her keep her head on a swivel and listen for anything. And she'll kind of whisper over to Percy, "Shh, let me know if you find anything."
He just kind of just makes like a noise in response and kind of tucks his beak into the pack as he does, kind of just allowing his eyes to kind of gaze over the top of the opening.
Okay.
You feel his little feetsies kind of moving in there just to try and get comfortable, and he's solidified himself in that position. And from that point, you are able to kind of know that you need to at least separate yourself a good amount from this trap beforehand. And you take excess snow and fill in the areas that allowed you to get to this point to kind of cover up your own tracks. And it leads you up over this large hill, this large snow-banked hill, to where you can see the trap on the other side of this hill. And you currently are looking just like directly at it for a good amount of time. And as you are laying there, kind of belly down in the snow with your arms kind of just like up underneath you, looking directly at the trap and just kind of keeping an eye out around you, the snow is just beating around you. You can barely see the trap from a distance. You know, it's covered by the fog and covered by the snow, but the gleam of the metal kind of gives you an idea of exactly where you had set it. And as you look down upon your trap, you feel a presence beside you. Not like a physical presence, not like you saw something, but like out of the corner of your eye, lying like next to you. You hear the sound of like
She'll turn her head to look at it.
You look over and you don't see anything. You see, just like you're at the top, or you're like at the peak of this snowbank, and you see a bit of snow get like pushed off of the top, like right next to you, no more than maybe 2 feet off to your right. And in your head, you know that this is something that you have inside of you. It's almost as if your instincts come to life. This is the conscience on your shoulder. This is the presence that has followed you all your life. As you kind of press your imagination and you look for a moment, the ever so faint outline of a gigantic wolf takes form slowly beside you. As it does, it just breathes through its nose, knocking a little bit of snow off the edge. And you can see it's looking down at the trap that you set, almost as if a hunting partner sits there next to you, with its paws directly in front of it, ready to pounce. As you look on, it slowly just moves its eyes towards you. It doesn't really move its head. It moves its eyes towards you. And just as fast as you had seen it, the wind blows and takes away what form you had seen. And suddenly...
She kind of smiles.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
She kind of smiles, kind of grabbing at the claws that she has at her throat. And then turns back.
Yep.
towards the trap.
And suddenly, as you grab the claws around your neck, before you have a chance to even look back, you hear the sound snap as the trap activates. You can hear and see down below in the snow as a small, medium-sized deer is stuck in a trap. You see it trying to pull its leg out from your trap. As you look on the creature, looking around, you can see that the creature is missing an eye. Looks like something had gotten a hold of it at one time, and you see a large gash across its face. It's making a lot of noise.
She's going to slide down the ridge and take off down to finish the kill.
As you stand up, you're immediately stricken with fear. As the second you stand up, you hear a noise, much like this. And as you stand up, from out of nowhere, just to the side of the deer, a huge white cat leaps up from the snow and tackles the deer, instantly grabbing it across the neck and ripping, causing the deer to, of course, go silent. And this gigantic crag cat stands above its kill as it gnaws and grabs onto the leg. It breaks it apart.
She's going to kind of sigh to herself because she has to get that food.
A memory suddenly jumps back into your mind as you remember, as if it were yesterday, a time when you were younger that a tundra cat just like this killed an entire family of Goliaths by itself after it had accidentally found its way into their hut. You see the crag cat is currently kind of licking its lips and kind of licking the area, and the cat begins to grab the deer and just drag it off into the snowbanks.
Maybe not this one. Let's see. So, how big is the animal?
The crag cat is huge. It's bigger than you, and you're big.
Oh yeah.
It's like its shoulder width alone is nearly as tall as you are high. As big as you are high. This thing is jacked. It's like, but you see it, and as it's going off into the distance, you see what looks like a rocky outcropping nearby.
I'll circle around towards the outcropping.
Okay. So you go towards the outcropping. Go ahead and roll me a stealth check.
Oh, this will be fun. Oh no. That's a 10.
A 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
These dice are cursed. They're pretty, but they're cursed.
So, as you are kind of making your way closer to the crag cat and kind of like around in a roundabout way towards the rocky outcropping, you're making your way there, and you grab onto a large rock that is alongside this hill that you are on. And as you grab that rock, it lets loose a couple other rocks underneath it, and they begin to tumble down the side, and you immediately drop down into the snow and see that you look over just a little bit to get a view. The crag cat kind of stops what it's doing, looks around, looks directly in your direction, grabs the deer and begins to move quickly towards one of the outcroppings of rocks ahead. What do you do?
Okay. I'm gonna give it a second.
Okay.
And then attempt to move a little bit more quietly in that direction.
Heavy breathing, you get up as a near-death experience kind of just like passes right before your eyes. As you breathe a sigh of relief, when you look up, you can see the crag cat has now made its way and hopped along a couple of the rocks until you see now it making its way into a large cavernous opening along the side of one of the rocks. And after about 5 or 10 minutes of kind of contemplating and waiting to see what's going on, 2 large crag cats exit the mouth of this large, jagged cave entrance as they look out into the distance, not in your direction, but just out in the distance, and they set off together into the darkness.
This seems a little too dangerous, and she's not entirely sure that this deer is going to be worth it.
Well, you do know that deer are extremely difficult to come by. As a matter of fact, food is extremely difficult to come by. Being that you've been here so long, the only food that is not guaranteed, but is at least stable, is that of the knucklehead trout. And being that your escapade so far has not led to any more trout, this might be your only chance at food other than that couple of large crag cats that just walked away.
Okay. She just kind of sighs, tries to move as stealthily as she can towards where the crag cat dragged the deer.
You make your way upwards towards the outcropping of rocks. You step on one rock and kind of wait for a moment and kind of gather its strength to make sure that it's not going to fall from under you. You take a large leap, grabbing onto the next ledge and pulling yourself up from that ledge and kind of getting down low. As you reach, finally, the side of the large cave opening, kind of place your back against the side and listen inside. As you listen inside, roll a perception check.
Oh no.
Holy cursed dice, Batman.
Yeah, these are awful. They're so pretty, but they're so bad. That is 7.
7. Okay.
7.
As you turn the corner of the
Just gonna put this.
you turn the corner of the cave entrance, a large drift of snow from above you where the rock kind of leans over the edge. A large pile of snow falls and it lands almost directly on top of your head, causing you to slam your back up and look up. And luckily, it was just the wind. But from inside the cave, you can hear the sound of dank droplets of water dripping into large pools. That's about it.
Okay.
This
Is there
of course
any-
from the outside.
Okay. So she's gonna start moving in, trying to look for drag marks and blood from the deer to
Excellent.
try and follow it.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Survival check.
Rolling a different die.
All
Oh
right.
no, I think it's his game session. Okay.
Oh no!
8.
8. All right. All right.
Also another one that's going bye-bye.
Woo! You know, for these stats,
I
this
know.
is DM justice. No, I was kidding. All right. So, as you walk inside, the snow seems to have cleaned much of the blood off of the carcass. As a matter of fact, you knowing a lot about the lands themselves, you know that a lot of times the snow and the cold will actually freeze the blood before it leaks too much from the body, allowing barely allowing enough time for it to even leave a stain or a trail, let alone you know, a whole blood streak or anything like that. So unfortunately, you don't see anything like that as you look into the mouth of this cave, and as you peer inside, you can hear like the sound of like the drops hitting the water, and you can also hear like the sound of like dust or rocks clacking against each other as small bits of stone may be falling from the ceiling and landing upon the floor. You look inside and you can see what looks like just a large open area that leads beyond the rocks, and the rocks kind of lead in a downward angle into this smaller hole. This cavern itself is not very tall, no more than like I'd say no more than like 8 feet tall, so you're almost dragging your head across the ceiling. But it's pretty wide. It's probably about 30 feet wide, but no more than 8 feet tall, as you kind of have to duck down a little bit. But you look inside, and as you look inside, you can see small bones that kind of litter the floor that aren't seemingly like you know, hidden or anything like that. They just seem to be littered around the basin of the floor here. And as you're kind of inspecting this area, you see a longer tunnel that leads a little bit off to the left from where you are currently, this main entryway area.
Okay. She'll follow that path, hoping that the other two don't come back.
Yep.
And there aren't any more,
Yep.
other than the one she's tailing.
As you go and push forward into this smaller side cavern, you see that the ceiling is becoming kind of smaller and smaller and smaller as you kind of keep going down. Go ahead and roll a perception check as you make your way down the hallway.
Which one of you are not going to mess me up? Okay, I'll try this one. Eight.
8? Hell yeah! All right, Olanu. As you make your way in, you can see what looks like the back of the deer lying down on the ground at the back of this cave. It is currently facing away from you, like you can see like the whole back end, the whole spine of the deer and like the back of its neck, maybe the head, and it's currently just like laying on the ground in the back of the cave area. And it's you can see now that like by the time you reach that area, like if you were to go all the way down there, it's probably no more than like 4 feet in height.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Like it just keeps getting smaller and smaller but you can see the deer off.
She'll, I guess, low crawl for doing.
All right. So, as you low crawl, you hear like behind you. You hear, as you can tell that he's a little afraid of what's going on. He kind of like tucks down even further into your bag, and you begin to like low crawl, and you reach the deer. You are at the deer.
Okay. Just gotta give it one more look around.
You give it one final good, what the fuck am I doing?
Yep.
Roll one last perception check.
Okay, at least it's above a 10. So that's a 14.
14. You go to pull the deer from its location. You grab it by its tail and pull the tail away. And as you pull the tail away, you can see just there that the creature has already been like opened up at the stomach. And a lot of its entrails kind of line the floor there. And you pull it back, you slide it back, and as you slide it back, you look now as there are 2 small cats lying in the pen that is kind of a set of old timber and old like leaves and everything like that set up in the back of the cave right behind the deer. And you can see that their mouths are covered in red. It looks like they had just gotten done with a nice warm meal. And as you pull this thing to the side, as you pull it to the side, one of them rolls over and looks directly at you. And
So she just kind of looks at it, kind of pulls up her sword a little bit and like chops off the tail, or tries to chop off the tail of the deer and throw it at it.
you like slowly but surely pull your sword and begin to, and this shit isn't cutting. This fucking sword isn't cutting. You look down at the dull, banged up, rusted sword that the Black Iron Blades gave you. And it's just fucking terrible. And you end up like getting halfway through and ripping off the rest of the tail. And as you rip off the tail, the cat seems to have been interested in what you were doing and begins to rub up against your side.
I toss the tail, hoping that it chases it.
Immediately like looks in the direction of the tail. Go ahead and roll an animal handling check, please. Okay. With advantage.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Where is he? Okay, 18.
18.
Yes.
You toss the tail off in the distance, causing the one that was currently up against you to like look off quickly as the tail lands. And as the tail lands, it runs over in the direction of the tail and like pounces on it as if it were prey and begins to like roll on the ground with it within it, you know, with this large poofy tail within its arms, and rolls around with it and begins to like slowly gnaw on it.
Okay. She's just gonna grab onto the deer and try to like get it into a better position to haul it out of there.
Yeah. With 4 feet of height, you have to like drag it out a little bit. So you're like,
okay.
And as you're pulling it, you're like leaving an end, like a trail of entrails along, just not even worried about, you know, cleaning it or anything like that. You're just fucking pulling it, get it out of here as soon as you possibly can. And as you like pull it out, finally, you're able to place it, you know, in a better carrying position along your back. As you, you know, are barely able to get from bumping your head from like the small icicles that hang down from the ceiling here.
Okay. She'll kind of pull the entrails off to leave them.
Yeah, I mean, you just like shovel the entrails out with your hand easily, and just once it's clean enough, you toss the entrails kind of back towards the rest of the cats and kind of toss it up.
Getting out there as quickly as I can without making too much noise.
All right, go ahead and roll a stealth check, please.
Okay. 20.
20. All right. So
I like this dice.
You so you toss the thing over your shoulder, and as you are heading out the cave, you can see off in the distance, probably a good 60 or so feet off, barely just the shadow of the two large crag cats coming back. And the second you see them, you head for the heels. You sprint out of there as fast as you can, and as you do, you bump the deer up against the side, causing a little bit of rocks to kind of drop or whatever. But the last thing you notice on your way out is the crag cat that was asleep begins to make its way towards the entrance to the cave, and that was right before you started hauling ass out of there. And as you haul ass out of there, you take a moment to look back behind you as the crag cats enter the cave, back where you just were.
She kind of stills herself for a second and then continues to meet him at the tree.
The sweat on your brow is solidifying into frost as it comes down your face, and you kind of have to take your hand to wipe away the sweat. As you do, you kind of leave a little residue of blood, and you're able to clean it off if necessary. But
should leave it. It makes it look fierce.
You have your fresh kill, slung across your back, missing much of its entrails, but still a lot of good meat on this creature, and you know that this will feed you and your compatriots for at least a few days, being that the crag cats have taken a chunk out of it, but you can get at least a few days worth of meat from this. So you begin to trek back towards the meetup location that Ian had previously spoke of, and you know that it's up along the side of the road, and it's pretty easy to spot, as this gigantic tree had fallen long ago and blocked much of the road, but is able to be trekked around, of course, after some time. And you know the general direction of it because, again, you stayed pretty decently close to the road in the first place. And as you are walking back, and you have the thing strapped across your back, you begin to hear footsteps behind you in the snow. You hear this, and do you stop?
She's gonna try and move, if she can try and get behind a tree or.
Well, there's no trees. It's more like
it's just open.
Barren, barren.
Okay.
Kind of wasteland thing. There's
bush. Yeah,
there's bushes. There's rocks.
Okay. She'll try and look in the direction that she hears the footsteps coming from, but not overtly turn towards it.
Yep. The second you turn towards it, the footsteps stop. The sound of the footsteps stop. And you look around, and it's nothing. And as you turn back around towards the front, towards where you were heading, you are met face to face with a gigantic bear. 3 times the size larger than any bear you have ever set your eyes upon. The bear in your face. No more than 2 or 3 inches from your face, you can feel the breath upon your face.
She's gonna kind of try and make herself seem not as threatening to the bear.
The bear looks on, and suddenly the eyes of the bear go white and then light a blue as a small like smoke and flame begin to emanate from its eyes. As it looks at you, it says, Olanu.
Yes, Great Spirit.
You travel along the footsteps of your ancestors. You are destined for greatness. Follow the footsteps. We are not far behind. You will be our guide. We will be your protector.
She gives the bear a deep bow. I am honored.
He kind of closes his eyes, causing like the smoke to go out for a moment. And as he opens them again, the smoke bursts again from his eyes. He looks directly at you.
You will end this rhyme. The night will fall to you. Save our people.
She puts a hand across her chest and again bows. I accept. I shall end the rhyme and save the Akannathi.
As you do so, the bear kind of steps back and then steps up on 2 feet. And as it steps on 2 feet, you can see it's now 15 feet in the air tall. As it roars in the air, it just lets out a grunt. It lands in the snow next to you. And as it lands, the snow, poof, almost as if like a whale entering the ocean from breaching. Boosh, the snow topples up over the bear. And as the snow dissolves and comes back down from gravity, the bear dissipates into the snow. Leaving nothing in sight.
She just kind of smiles to herself. 2 spirits have talked to her today and have told her that she is chosen. She'll just kind of reach back, scratch on Percy's beak a little bit, and then continue.
You see Percy is nibbling on the deer.
Not too much, Piggy.
You begin walking again, and off in the distance, you hear. As you continue walking for about another half hour or so, you eventually reach the large downed tree that you know to where Ian had told you that he's probably going to meet up with you at some point. And as you reach the tree, Ian's nowhere in sight.
She kind of grumbles to herself. But she'll wait.
You kind of cross your arms and place, kind of readjust the deer that sits upon your shoulders. And as you're sitting there, I need you to roll a perception check.
14?
14?
Yes.
So as you're standing there, you start to hear yet again footsteps approaching from behind you.
She'll turn around to face footsteps.
As you turn around, you can see Ian slowly making his way towards you. And then as soon as you see him, he stands up tall. It's like, damn, I'm losing my touch. Hey there, Olanu. Looks like you got some food.
Hey. Eventually, but yes.
Must have been a breeze for you.
Speaking of, these swords, they're useless.
He kind of looks at you in like surprise from like the show of aggression that he has not necessarily seen directly, but of course he's heard of, and that causes him to kind of like take one step back, and he's like, oh, you get them from the blades?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure Gar and the Hammer will will reimburse you, maybe?
Reimburse me.
Well, I mean, it's still intact, right?
For the most part. She goes to pull it out of the sheath.
You go to pull it out from the sheath, and the fucking handle just pops off of the blade. And the blade falls to the snow underneath you, and you're just holding the pommel.
No, it's not still intact.
He kind of looks at you and he scratches his head and he's like, oh, well, shit. Yeah, well, let's head back to the blades then. Why don't you put that deer back up on the sled? We picked up that girl we were talking about. Don't worry about her, she's fine.
Okay, it wasn't.
Yeah,
She'll walk off towards the back of the cart, pull the deer off, and throw it into the cart. Take a brief look.
Yeah, you see sitting in the cart, kind of tucked back away with arms crossed, holding a small book in her hand. Just looks kind of like a more skinny female figure. And she takes a moment to look up at you. And oddly enough, you're looking down and you see a bit of red in her eyes, which is very unsettling at first, but due to the amount of time that you've had, or you've been told that, don't worry about it, doesn't necessarily.
She just kind of makes a and then walks away.
So you just toss the deer onto the thing, causing the deer to kind of like slide on its own entrails, like remaining entrails, and slide into the woman, and the woman just like for a moment, and just kind of like lifts her arms up as like one of the hooves kind of like moves and just like blocks her vision. And you begin making your way forward past the cart and past the dogs and everything like that. Ian is now heading on his way back towards the sled. He's like, "You gonna go up ahead like you normally do then, I guess?"
Yeah.
All right, appreciate it. Let us know if you see anything.
Will do. Don't exactly have a reliable weapon to do anything with.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
And he
She
makes
walks.
his way. Yeah, he makes it just like exactly at the same time. You just keep walking past each other. And you can see Ian. You turn back one more time and you can see Ian, make his way towards the dogs, make sure they're okay, and you just keep going. Not too long after you began making your way back, about an hour or so into the travel, you start to see the outskirts of the town, and unlike the sled that has to travel along the path, you don't necessarily need to. and you gather high ground in order to make sure that there's nothing that is either going to jump the thing or come out of nowhere. And as you top the side, this hill just outside the large hill that leads up to Bryn Shander. As a matter of fact, you can see the outside of Bryn Shander at this point, the large wooden palisades that is the walls to Bryn Shander. You top up this large hill. As you can see from a distance now, the approaching sled off in the distance, and you look over to the side from where you are, and off to the side you can see the tall wooden stakes that stand about 20 feet in the air. Just solo stakes, almost as if like trees with no leaves or branches coming off of it. You see that there are 3 of them set up outside of Bryn Shander, and along the bottom of it, where the snow seems to be just kind of peeking over the bottom of the pole, you see half buried in the snow skeletons of what looks like humanoids, half eaten and frozen along the poles. And you know these as the sacrifices that Bryn Shander has been making towards the Frost Maiden in order to help, or in order to attempt to help pull the everlasting night. You see,
She just kind of shakes her head.
yeah, you see
Mutters
small,
useless.
you see small like animals feeding off of some of them, and some of them kind of dash off into the thicket. And after seeing that, you make your way back down the hill, as it doesn't seem like there's anything else of worry as the thing is approaching. And as you reach the front gates, 2 guardsmen that are keeping the front gates closed begin to open it as they see you approaching, knowing a very common face. And as you make your way through, you watch as like the 2 guards just kind of like look up at you as you pass slowly past them. And they suddenly oh, go ahead. You keep walking.
Yeah. I don't pay him any attention.
Yeah. And you just hear like whispers and grumbles kind of behind you. And suddenly they like turn back and they're like, "Hey, hold on there," as they begin to stop the sled. And you continue making your way down into the city. You note that the city itself is quite desolate and has been ever since you've made your way around here. The houses or the bungalows or whatever, what somebody has called home, they all seem pretty desolate. All doors are closed, all windows are closed, if not boarded up. You see very small amounts of house fires. If anything, you see small lanterns that light the inside of houses, giving off the faintest of orange glow. And you see now that like a couple guards just slowly walking their way down the path, and you even pass what seems to be a makeshift cemetery. It's very small, no more than like 20 or 30 people probably buried there. But you see like the headstones are essentially just large boulders that they placed in a sequential manner. And you see small dead flowers kind of lining the snowbanks leading up to those rocks. And as you make your way towards the center of town, you make your way towards the Black Iron Blades. You know your way there, as you've been there several times now before. And you look up and you can see the frozen sign swinging in the wind. As it swings in the wind, you can like see the frost that has attached itself to it, or the stalactite, or excuse me, the icicles that have attached to it swing as well. And approach the house.
She's gonna gonna sit outside for just a second, kind of clean off some of the entrails and stuff that was dripping down her coat,
Sure.
just so she's not as frightening in appearance when she walks through the door.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Tell Percy to stay in her cloak or in her coat,
Yep.
and then push through the door.
Percy even has his own like personal flap that he like grabs with his beak and like pulls it up over his head, and it just covers him up.
Yeah. And she'll go up to the door and knock on it.
Yep. Boom, 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 boom. On the door. And your stature, like the door frame is like right at your head level, if not even below it, so you have to duck in order to get in. After a moment of waiting, the door opens. And when the door opens, you can see now in front of you a very pretty lady with red hair, curly, really pretty eyes. And you look on, you can also see a new face in the corner of the room. A human face, both of these faces human. And you see what looks like a very injured, bearded fellow who is just now taking off like all his gear. And you also see what looks like to be 3 different dwarves that you haven't seen before, but they all have the insignia of what looks like a flagon of mead or ale, and they all wear this insignia upon them, and they all just kind of seem to be staring like at you in disbelief as you fill the frame of this door. And you see now, kind of coming up from behind the counter. Oh, Olanu, welcome back. You got my goods.
I'll tell you what I don't have. A usable sword.
Oh, whatever do you mean?
She throws the handle to the blade on the ground.
It like hits the ground, clink, 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 and like slides a little bit before stopping and hitting his toe. As he looks down, he's like, broke another one?
It fell apart in my hand. I couldn't even pull it from the sheath.
Oh, come on, you're fibbing. And he kind of like looks at everybody in the room like, come on, you're fibbing, right?
You can ask Ian, I'm not fibbing.
All right, look, Olanu, I'm sorry. Give me some time. Here, in the meantime. And he just kind of like goes back behind the counter and picks up some random like small short sword and hands it to you. The thing is almost like
a toothpick?
It's like almost like a dagger in your hand. And he's like, look, go ahead and roll an intimidation check.
Yes. 20.
20 again, nice. So as he's like, look, it's the best I got, and he kind of just looks up at you, and he like can see the anger in your eyes. He's like, whoa, hold on, I just remembered, and he like grabs the sword from your hand and like runs back to the back, and you can hear a bit of shuffling from behind the shelves.
Just start popping my knuckles.
You can see everybody in the room is still quite silent. Even the 3 dwarves that were talking like boisterously before you entered kind of have like slowed their talk. You see one of the dwarves is kind of like looking up in the air in different directions, and just like looking out the window. And then coming out from behind the shelf, he says, "You've been working for us for quite some time, Olanu. Look, I don't mean to be, forthright about everything being not that great here, but obviously things are not that great. Is Ian behind you? Is he coming?"
He is. He has a woman with him as well. Not the normal 2. An additional one.
All right. I don't know what that means, but I'll tell you this. with the goods that he's got and with what seems to be an issue here with these guys, maybe you can have this on loan. It was my brother's. Here. And he pulls out like a large two-handed axe as he lays it on top of the bench in front of him. And you look, and this is clearly not of his making. This axe seems to be well made. The leather seems to be in good repair, as it seems to be like, wrapped around the handle neatly. And the axe looks to be in pristine condition for what it is.
Awesome. She's happy, but she's trying to hide some of her enthusiasm.
Okay.
And she picks it up, kind of gives it a good feel. Kind of looks around. There probably isn't space in here for her to give it a swing.
There is very little space, but if you want to give it a swing, you can go for it.
She'll settle for just pushing it up on her shoulder.
Yeah.
This'll do.
As you swing it up against your shoulder, you feel the weight upon the blade, and you know that immediately that the steel or whatever this is crafted with is much better than what you've been dealing with, the rusted and pinged metal that you've been dealing with. This one seems pristine for what it is. He's like, look, you take care of that, all right? And for as long as you work for me, I guess you can take that on the road. Make sure that everything's, A-okay. You are our protector and everything, so...
As long as I'm alive, I'll
alive.
keep it safe.
Right. So, anyways, really appreciate it, and I'll go help Ian with whatever he's doing. And just as he's about to exit from behind the counter, another knock comes on the door. And the door opens as a darkened skinned creature that you had seen in the back of the sled has now made its way to the door. And you see again those red eyes as she kind of unfurls her cloak, or not her cloak, but her weather gear from around her head. You see now the long blood red hair, and she kind of whips it back and forth to kind of clear it from her shoulders, as she looks into the rest of the group and looks around. It's silent for a few seconds, and then the female dwarf, the one that had been kind of sitting there the whole time, she kind of looks to the group, and she'll be like, well, this is an awkward bunch. And that's where we're in today's session. Yeah.
Completely clueless to why this is awkward.
It was just silent. Everybody kind of just looking around, and she breaks the silence with, this is awkward.
Yeah. Right.
There you go.
I'm so excited.
Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. That is the last of our prologue sessions. So if you haven't seen the others, you need to go back and watch them all, as they all intertwine and mix with each other. That way, whenever we start session 1, you'll be caught up and you'll know exactly what's going on, and we'll have the party meet each other for the very first time inside of the Black Iron Blades. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.